All right, it looks like we are live. We're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another week of the good life. I know you're expecting a bunch of us, right? You're expecting three of us to be on the screen this Thursday, but I sent the fellas home, right? I sent the boys home. Now they're doing well. Stu is doing well. Kabi is doing well. But this one wanted to make it special because we're talking health, wealth, love, and happiness. And April happens to be Financial Literacy Month. So, because it's Financial Literacy Month, I said, hey, boys, you guys take the day off, take the night off. Everybody's stuck with me, Mr. Wealth, because we need to talk money. It's such an important topic, such an important conversation to have. We don't often get a chance to have the conversation just around money. But tonight, yours truly and you are here to have a deep conversation around money. So again, thanks for everybody that's joining us. If you're following us or if you're watching us on Facebook, hit that, hit the thumbs up, follow the page. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also hit that thumbs up, guys. We want to share this information with everyone. And this is also just another important topic. Guys, remember the reason we started this live stream show, the reason why myself, Kabi, Stu, at the time before Kevin, the reason why we got together was because we all wanted to talk about some of the most important areas and some of the most important parts of life, of living your desired life or the life that you want to have. It's kind of cliche to say your best life, but that's true though, right? Like, what are we doing to live our best life? And it really came down to these four areas: health, wealth, love, happiness, right? Health, obviously the things dealing with our health, our well-being physically and mentally. Then we have wealth, which is the money side of it, which is what we're going to talk about in depth tonight. Then you have the love side, relationships. Really hard to live the life that you're called to live and have a fulfilling life without having great relationships, right? It's just incredibly important to have those relationships there. And then lastly, right, happiness or just mindset in general, fulfillment. What is it that we're doing from a spirituality standpoint, from a just a mindset, a overall wellness standpoint? Those are the four areas that are actually going to comprise and normally are the things that make up the life that you want. In some area, you might not feel the greatest or feel like you're progressing in those areas. However, that that's something that's on your list that you want to pay attention to, that you want to start working towards. And typically it falls under one of those four categories. So that's why we wanted to come and have these conversations, because they're incredibly important. I believe everyone's looking for a better life. Everybody's looking for some way to improve their quality of life in any of those areas. And sometimes we just need a little guidance. Sometimes we just need a little bit of information to help us get there, right? If you change your thinking, you change your life. So sometimes it's just about thinking about these things differently. And so that's what we want to give you. But again, I sent the guys home tonight. You're stuck with me because we're talking about money. Money. April is Financial Literacy Month. It's one of the months that we really get a chance to talk about money, because to be honest, there's not a lot of months, there's not a lot of times where we're just very open and talking about money. I love the fact that it seems like the culture is shifting a little bit, the conversation is shifting a little bit, and we are having a little bit more discussions around money and financial literacy and, all of the topics around money. But it's still important just to be able to dive in. For those of you that don't know me, because many of you do that are probably watching, but if you don't know me, I've been in the financial services space for 8 years. I've been helping people understand their money for a little bit of time now. And, unlike many people, I've had the privilege of being able to lift up the hood under a lot of Americans' financial state, and just to see where see where people sit. And I've gotten a chance to draw some conclusions that, we're all kind of in the same spot. Obviously everyone's situation is a little bit different, But really, when it comes down to a lot of the fundamentals of money and the things that we want to be able to do with money, many of us are sitting in the same spot, either not getting to our savings or investing goals, not making enough money. There's a few areas that we can highlight, but in general, this conversation around money, it affects all of us. So if we're going to talk financial literacy, we're going to talk financial wellness and financial education. There's so many different levels to it, right? There's so many different areas that we can really attack. But tonight, I wanted to take you through a few different things. And it might be a good night to take some notes. Like I said, we're doing this just for tonight. 1 hour, you're going to get just full of the financial conversations or the financial pieces that you should be paying attention to. I have 15 points for you tonight, 15 points on how to improve your financial wellness or your financial literacy. Again, because it's the month of April, I really want to dive in and share with people what are the tools, what are the things that are needed to pay attention to in order to get to where you want to be. So we're going to dive in. Like I said, might be a good note-taking night. Might just be something to share with somebody. If somebody has financial questions, by all means, pop it into the chat. I'll try my best to answer the questions. And if not, I'll throw this plug in there now. At 9 o'clock after this hour, after we go live, we're going live on Clubhouse. So you can feel free to join me over on Clubhouse, and we'll go even more in depth on some of these financial topics and some of these financial principles that we're going to really want to learn and adapt, especially for this month of April. All right. So if you guys are ready, let's get a chance to dive in, right? This money conversation is so important. Everybody that wants to build wealth, everybody that just wants to get ahead financially, it's going to be incredibly important that you pay attention. And like I said earlier, there's so many different levels to this, right? Let me just preface this before I even dive in. Let me just preface this by saying everyone starts out somewhere different financially. Everyone has a different level of information, a different financial IQ. Their circumstances are different. So that's why it becomes very difficult to give blanket financial advice or blanket financial guidance, because I know everything's a little bit different for everyone. So tonight, as I kind of give you some of these points, some of them may apply to you, some of them may not, right? Some of them are for people that maybe are just getting started off in their financial journey, and maybe you've elevated past that point. It doesn't mean that the information is not correct or not sound. It just means you're a little bit past that point. And then I'm going to give some other information that's more on the 201, on the higher level of thinking about finance. Because again, maybe you have some of the basics down, but you still aren't where you want to be. So that requires a different level of information, a different level of knowledge. And this is honestly where we get caught as a society that I've seen, and really just where we get caught, in general, we don't know the information that we should take and that we shouldn't take, right? I've been in the industry for a little bit of time. And like I said, been teaching people about money for a little bit of time. And one of the things that I've always noticed is the tough part about money is everyone thinks they know about it, right? Just because everyone deals with it, because everyone has an account or has a job or makes money or spends money or whatever the case is, everyone feels like they can tell someone else about money or what they should do with their money or whatever the case is. And, to a degree, you have an opinion, you have the right to tell anybody anything. However, when it comes to some sound financial principles and some things that that's tried and true and really just has helped people across the board, you're going to want to listen to financial professionals and people that have been in the industry that actually have your best interest at heart that can help you down this process. So the stuff I'm going to give you tonight, like I said, take some notes on it, but I'm going to go through 15 points of what you should be paying attention to improve your financial wellness, financial IQ, financial literacy, however you want to break it down. All right. So number one, let's jump in. Number one is evaluate your relationship with money. Evaluate your relationship with money. Most times we don't start here. Many of us don't start at this place, but just remember that you got your money knowledge, your money information, your money mindset from somewhere, right? Everything that we have in our brain has been programmed there, whether we like that or not, whether it's come from good sources or not so good sources. We have that information from a place. Okay. So we have to evaluate our relationship with money right at the beginning. What are your thoughts on money? One, here's a question to ask yourself. Who taught you about money? Did you learn it from your parents? Typically, we learn our money and we learn and get our money habits and learn money from our parents or our peers, the people around us, the people at work, the people that we associate with. And now we have the internet, so we can do a lot of Googling and right, getting into forums or groups or chats or things like that. So that's another way. But in general, out of those three areas, that's probably how most people are going to understand or start to learn money. So your relationship with money is also very important. How do you view money? What is it used for in your life? I will tell you, money is a tool. No more, no less. It's a tool. It doesn't carry anything. If you're, some people say, there, and goes back to evaluating your relationship with money. Some people have negative connotations with money, or all wealthy people are bad people, or people that have a lot of money are bad, or however, whatever those thoughts are that you have to find out where they came from and then see how that's actually affecting you. If you grew up thinking that money is not good, or everyone that has a lot of money, they don't help poor people, or I don't know, whatever you think about it, then you may grow up not attracting money into your life because you think that it's negative, because it has a negative connotation in your life. So you have to evaluate, do you have positive messages around money? Do you have negative messages around money? Do you feel good about how you talk to yourself about money, or do you not feel good? Do you beat yourself up? Do you tell yourself things like, I'm not good with money? I'm bad with, I'm bad with spending, or, any of these types of things that we're telling ourselves becomes our relationship with that thing. And if we don't have a very open relationship with money, if you don't have a very open relationship where that money is just a tool, if you're a good person, you can become a great person with money. If you're not a good person, you'll become a worse person with money. Money is just a tool. It allows you to do the things that you want to do. Money gives you options. It gives you the ability to say, no, I don't want that. I'll pay for that. No, I don't want, free healthcare. I'll pay for the best healthcare. No, I don't want my child to go to any ordinary school. I will pay for the best tutors, right? Like, money is it just gives you options. So you have to evaluate, what is your relationship with money, right? What's your relationship with it? And if it's not a healthy relationship, or not necessarily a good relationship that you might like, well, then let's start to try to fix it, right? Let's start to try to think of ways. And, this is where working with somebody, you can start to uncover your money mindset and how you think about money, and how that might be detrimental to you attaining money. Okay. So that's one area. Evaluate your relationship with money. Here's the second one. Identify your areas of improvement in your personal financial life. We all know the places that we struggle. Hopefully, if you're self-aware enough, because that's a huge part of living the good life, is being self-aware, understanding the things you're good at, you're not good at, your strengths, your weaknesses, all that stuff. So when it comes specifically to this area of finances, what areas do you need to improve? Are there areas that you need to improve? Are there areas that you feel like, I missed the mark? How is your saving? How are your investing habits? How's your, are you an impulsive spender? Are you an emotional spender? What areas in your financial life do you need to improve? Do you want to boost your retirement? Or do you want to, like I said, make sure your emergency fund is built? But we have to understand, like, what are the areas we are trying to improve? Once you get your relationship down, once you understand, like, what you're using money for, why you're going after it, and you have a positive image of it, then we have to start to look at, okay, what are the areas that I need to improve? What are the areas I need to grow? Again, this is the month of April. We can dive deep into some of these things and have these conversations, but this is time you take by yourself with a spouse to sit down and say, hey, what are the areas that we have to improve in our financial life? What are those areas? What are the areas that we say, hey, let's set a goal for this and let's move forward in that area? But identifying your areas of improvement, incredibly important. Incredibly important, okay? So that was the second thing. Here's the third one. Education, education, education. Cannot stress this enough. The things that we were not taught in school is not our fault. I hear a lot of rhetoric. I hear a lot of stuff out there, and we all want and wish and hope that our kids get the best education, the best information needed to prepare them for life, right? That's what school should be for, is to get our kids equipped and prepared for life. So we would all hope that they would get that information from school and be able to progress through life. But there's not many schools teaching financial literacy and proper financial education. I think the last study I read, 11 states. So it's either 11 or 17. I don't remember the number. It was like 2 years ago, but now we're up to either 11 or 17 states in this country that require financial literacy on as curriculum. So what's that? Less than a third, less than a quarter, about a quarter of the states maybe that we have actually require kids to learn about money. Again, this is the good life, right? If I had my buddies on, we'd start talking about the reasons why. I can go deep into the reasons why. It may not be in our education system's best interest to educate our children about money, right? You would think that the things that are most practical, we should learn more about, since we're all going to have to pay our taxes down the line. Wouldn't it make sense to have like a robust education on taxes sometime in school, right? But it might not be in the best interest of the powers that be, right? It may not be in the best interest of the system to educate our people, to educate our children on how to get ahead financially. So it's our responsibility. Education is the key. Education is free, like YouTube University. And again, this is where it gets tough with money and anything in the money space, because yes, everyone has an opinion, and yes, you can listen to people that maybe aren't giving you the greatest advice or aren't steering you in the right direction. But just know that's where your own ability to decipher good information from not good information, finding other articles that support or disprove what you're reading, right? You have to do your due diligence to make sure that you're equipping yourself with the things that you need to live the good life. This comes with financial education. You got to educate yourself. You got to maybe invest some money into some education, invest into some reading, some books, some seminars, something that's going to help you learn a little bit about money. I have tons of books downstairs on real estate investing or stock market investing, or just, money in general. One book I'll recommend to all of you that's out there, Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. It's the title of it says Money, and I think the subtitle or whatever is Money Master the Game. And it's by Tony Robbins, probably like a 600-page book. But I'll tell you, if you're, whether you're starting out, whether you're in the middle of your financial journey, whether you feel like there's not much for you to learn, in that book, the premise of the book is, I believe Tony Robbins went around, talked to, the 50 wealthiest people that he knows, or the 50 wealthiest people on the planet, or whatever the case is, and basically asked them the question, like, hey, if you didn't have this money and you wanted to pass it, and, if you had this money, but you couldn't pass it down to anyone, to your family, to your heirs, what one piece of information would you give them in order to help recreate this money again? Or what advice would you give them about how to rebuild this? And so that book is a collection of some of the smartest money people in the world, talking about what the average ordinary person should do in order to get themselves ahead financially. So education is huge. That's one book. There's tons of books out there. I may comprise a list. I know we've been telling you guys that, for those of you that have been following us and watching us for a little bit of time. I know we've been telling you we're going to get a book list together, but we really will. I promise. We're going to get a book list together for you guys. And we're going to drop some things because there's a bunch of books that you can start to really move forward in your financial education. But that's just one book that I recommend. Money Master the Game. It's by Tony Robbins. Like I said, pretty big book, but it'll break down some of the things that you should know regardless of where you are in your journey. So education is the key. You have to continue to educate yourself. Remember, I told you this earlier. Most of us get our financial information from our parents or our peers. That's where most of us get our financial information. So if they did the same thing, got their financial information from their parents or their peers, this is just information being passed down, but no one has actually checked to see if this is the correct information, if this is the best way to think about the situation. Until someone in that lineage, until someone gets information from a financial professional, from somebody that is highly trusted and wealthy and already has built something, like until that information starts passing down, you can assume that you might not be getting the best information about your money. Think about it. If your goal is to be wealthy, if your goal is to live the good life, and wealth is a part of that equation, are you studying and taking information from the people that are already wealthy? Or are we studying and taking information from people that are not wealthy and or, right, the TV, Google, all of these types of places? You really have to evaluate this when it comes to money, guys. But education is key. It's key. You have to educate yourself. Books, audios, webinars, talking with a financial professional. All of these things are ways for you to be able to continue to boost your education and your financial literacy. All right. What was that, number 3? I think it was number 3. Number 4, pretty basic, but here you go. You got to track your spending. Track your spending. This is a way to improve your financial education. Is a way to improve your financial life. Track your spending. A lot of times we track the bills that come in. If I ask you, how much is the cell phone bill, how much you normally pay in utilities, the fixed expenses, what we call them, right? The fixed expenses, most people know. Most people can track that. That's what overwhelms most people, right? Is their spending. The more most people make, the more their expenses go up, right? We have to fix that. Hence why we do have conversations like this, because that should not be the case. As your income goes up, you do not have to raise your expenses. However, that's just a part of our society, because once you get the raise, you feel like you deserve the house. Or once you get the raise, you feel like you deserve the car. Those things start to happen psychologically. Go back to evaluating your relationship with money and seeing how much that stuff is really affecting you. But this point it may seem basic, but we got to lock in and say, hey, do you know where all the other monies are going? You might know where the fixed expenses are going. You might know where the bills are going, right? But do you know where the extra money is going? Do you know the last time, how much you spent on dining out, where the, leaks in your boat are? My wife often gives this saying. She says, small holes sink great ships, right? So it's never the big things in your financial life. It's never the fixed expenses. Sometimes, right? Like I'm working with somebody that, has gotten a bit ripped off in her car loan. So she's paying way too much. So that's a fixed expense that we got to figure out how to get down. But in general, it's not the big holes. It's the small holes. It's the $12.15, the $7.10, the $36.02, right? It's the little things that start to come out that we're not tracking. So we don't really know where that money's going. So we don't really have a good idea or a good understanding of the miscellaneous spending. So if you want to improve your financial wellness, you want to get to that next level, track your spending. Just don't judge yourself, right? Remember, be kind to yourself. What's your relationship with money? Do you beat yourself up? Is this a self-defeating thing? Or it's just a tool and we need to learn how to use it? How do you think about it? That's how I would want you to think about it. It's just a tool. We need to learn how to use it properly. So the first step is, do you know where you're using this money? So you need to get some real numbers. When you're tracking your spending, you need to get some real numbers. You need to find out how much actually do I spend on entertainment? How much actually do I spend eating out? How much do I actually spend on the kids? Right? I have a young daughter, so that happens all the time. We're going out, she sees something that's an extra $6, might seem like nothing added to the bill, but then when we really add it up over the months, it's like, man, that we spent a little bit more than we should have on her this month, right? But are you doing that? That's what I recommend. Track your spending. It might seem basic, guys. It might seem basic, but if you want to get to that next level, I'll tell you, if you want to live the good life financially, you want to have wealth, the wealthiest people I know inspect their money, a lot of it. I mean, all the time, right? Like they're always inspecting their money. They're always inspecting their money. So you got to start tracking your spending. If you're just on this level where you're dealing with income and expenses, you can't just get over the hump like you're living paycheck to paycheck, which again, no judgment, because 78%, that was the last stat. It's probably closer to 82% now. So 8 out of every 10 people that we know lives paycheck to paycheck, right? It's a plague. It's why this conversation is so important. It's why we have to get this education out there, because it doesn't make sense that 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's not that people aren't making money. It's not that they don't have a job. It's just that the more they make, the more they spend. It's what happens. So we have to fix this. The way that you start fixing that is tracking your spending. That helps you get on a budget, by the way, when you track your spending. Here's the next one. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. I think Warren Buffett said, never spend, what's the saying? Don't spend what's left. No, don't save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving, right? Don't save what's left after you spend. Spend after you've already saved. That's the way it goes. Too often we have it the other way. Too often, and again, like I said, I've sat down with hundreds of families, hundreds of people to talk about their own money habits. And typically what happens when I ask someone the question, what's the first thing you pay every month? What's the first thing that you're paying? Naturally, their first thought is like their mortgage or their rent, their living space. It's like the most important thing for most people. And that becomes the first thing, the thing that they always have to like make sure that they're paying for. When in actuality, the first thing that should be paid every time money comes in is you, right? It's you. You work hard for yourself, for your family, to have options, not just to make the bank rich for your mortgage, not just to make your landlord rich for the rent, not just to pay the car note and the cell phone bill and all the other utilities and bills that you have. That's not why you work. You're working to accumulate for you to make sure that you can have some level of comfort, safety, whatever you choose to use money for. But the way you do that is paying yourself first. It's putting you at the top of the list. So every time money comes in, I don't care if it's from your job, if it's from a business you own, if it's passive income, whatever it is that's coming in, you need to take a portion of that and you need to put it aside for you. Now, like I said, at the very beginning of this, there's so many levels to that. We talk about emergency fund savings. You'll hear a lot of financial people talk about having 3 to 6 months worth of your income socked away. I think, we'll touch on Dave Ramsey. I think Dave Ramsey talks about $1,000 as the first baby step or something like that. But, that's 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months, right? It's a proper emergency fund, 6 months on the high end, 12 months really, if you're a really good saver. But at the end of the day, you don't want to save too much money. You want to start investing money. So that's why, again, there's levels to this conversation. But either way, when money comes in, you should be designating some to go into saving or investing first before you worry about bills and everything else. It's a huge paradigm shift, a quick habit that you can shift right away to say, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself and my family before I take care of Wells Fargo or whoever has your mortgage, okay? So that's huge. Pay yourself first. If anybody has questions, and normally I get the question of like, well, I don't even make enough money to, yeah, that might be a point, right, that you don't make enough money, so we need to actually go increase our income a bit. But the other side of it is you probably waste $15 a month on something that you shouldn't. If you had discipline or self-control, or right, weren't emotional about something, there's probably, even for the lowest income earners, there's probably 10 to 20 bucks a month that you waste on something that you justify why you need it, but it's probably a waste that could still go into savings or wherever it is you're going. So you got to understand that there's no excuse. You got to pay yourself first. If you want to get ahead financially, if you want to live the good life, trust me, got to pay yourself first. Here's the next one. Inspect your money. Inspect your money. Again, having the privilege of sitting down with so many people and talking to them about their money. On the side of people that are not where they want to be financially, they typically don't look at their money often. They typically are not, they're kind of like putting their head in the sand. It's like, oh, I don't want to see this. I know it's bad, but I don't want to see how bad. And they'll go through life that way. You know, it might be you listening, right? You might go through life that way. You might actually constantly just, you know, week after week, month after month, know you're not where you want to be financially, but you don't actually want to dive in and look at it. And trust me, I understand this. I understand it. It happens in all of these areas. Remember, tonight we're talking about money, happens to be Financial Literacy Month, but this show is for all of the areas: health, wealth, love, happiness, all of them. And in all of these areas, it's very similar. If you do not inspect what it is that you want, if you're in a marriage, if you're in a relationship and you are not inspecting your relationship to see how can it improve, how can I get better, what are the challenges, what do we need to work on, eventually over time, you're not going to be where you want to be in that relationship. Same thing with your money. Same thing with building wealth. You've got to inspect your money. Old saying, a mentor of mine once told me, you got to inspect what you expect, right? So if you expect to have money one day, if you expect to have investments, if you expect to build wealth, if you expect to get financially independent, then you got to inspect your money all the time, right? You got to inspect it. Minimum every month, guys. If anybody's listening and you're like, okay, that's me. I don't really inspect my money the way that I should. I don't really dive into money the way that I should. I'm kind of fearful of looking at my finances, or it's just not something that's on my radar, or I don't want it to be on my radar all the time. I would challenge you that every month, once a month, that's 12 times a year, right? Once a month, take a look at your money, inspect your money. And that's all your monies too, by the way, right? Not just what's flowing in your bank accounts, but what's in your savings account, what's in your investment accounts. What does your job offer? You know, a lot of times I sit down with, employees, and they'll say, you know, my job has benefits, but when I dive into the benefits, they don't really know what benefits the job offers, right? Like, how much is that disability policy? Like, how much do they give you? How much coverage do you get? How much is in your 401k or 403b or 457? What are the terms of that pension? Right? These are your monies. This is your money flowing out, whether you're choosing to put it in there, whether the job is helping you put it in. Regardless of it, are you inspecting it? Are you looking at it, or are you just crossing your fingers and hopefully when you get to the finish line, there's something there for you? Right? This conversation we're having is about living the good life. It's about living the life that you're designed to live. So you've got to get on top of these things immediately to say, hey, if I want to be wealthy, I need to start inspecting my money. I need to start looking at where my money is going, what it's doing, how it's growing, looking at my investments. Did I lose money in that 401k? Did I gain money? What are, some people, and like I said, there are levels to it. Some people look at their stock, their brokerage account every day. I know people that look at their brokerage, their Robinhood account, their Fidelity account. They look at it every single day, possibly because they're paranoid, right? Because of the volatility of the market. But that's a good habit as long as it's not stressing you out and you're making emotional decisions about moving your money and trading money. It's a good thing to look at it and see what's happening to it and understand. But are you doing that in all the areas? It's important. It's a key. So you got to make sure you are inspecting your money. Remember, You got to inspect what you expect. If you expect to be wealthy, if you expect to have money, got to inspect it, right? All right. So that was some basic things, right? As I'm kind of going through this list, we're going to start, like I said, taking it to the next level. We're going to start really talking about the wealth building, depending on where you sit. Here's something, I'm going to take this part down. Here's something I'll preface and tell you guys. A lot of times we might be starting financially at a 101 level. You need to get some foundational things right. You need to boost your savings. You need to teach yourself how to save. You need to, maybe get out of some debt or raise your income, or right. There might be some basic things you have to get done. But then there's the 201 side and all right, I've done the basics. Now, how do I get to that next level? Because trust me, there's still levels to it. The higher up you go, the more money you make, the higher, the higher your tax bracket, the more things you have to learn about money, the more things that you can utilize, the vehicles that you need to utilize to get there. So a lot of times people are at a 101 level, but they are actually taking information at a 201 level, and they're not focused on that 101. Okay. So sometimes we have to focus on 101 so we can get to 201. Don't try to skip levels and start just investing and throwing a bunch of money, and you have no safety net. Your job is not secure. Your income is not secure. You're in debt. Like, that's not the smartest thing to do to build wealth. But that's the conversation that we want to start having, because that's the good life, right? Building some form of wealth. So understand, here we go, understand how the rat race works and how to escape it. If you haven't heard that term, the rat race, right? It's a saying. I know Robert Kiyosaki talks about it a bunch. He's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Cash Flow Quadrant, highly recommend those books as well. I think we talked about them on earlier episodes, especially Cash Flow Quadrant, just how we make money. But understanding what the rat race is and how to get out of it. He also, funny enough, he also has a game called Cash Flow 101. Robert Kiyosaki has a game called Cash Flow 101, where you can learn some of the tactics and basically tips of how to get out of the rat race. That's actually the premise of the game. The game is you're in the rat race, meaning you have a job, you're working, right? You get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You have things pop up, right? You have a baby, you got bills, you have expenses that pop up, but you also get the opportunity to invest. You also get the opportunity to do a small deal or a big deal, depending on how much money you have. And all of these, components that come in, your job is how you win the game to get out of the rat race is your passive income overtakes your expenses. So that means the monies that are bringing in passively overtake what your actual monthly expenses are to like pay your bills and your rent and things like that. That means you're out of the rat race. If you can find a way to create passive income, and that passive income takes care of your monthly or annual expenses, that's called financial independence, ladies and gentlemen. Like, that's what happens. That's how you exit the rat race. That is technically the game many of us should be playing. If your monthly expenses, and this is where understanding money and understanding your financial life makes sense. If your monthly expenses are $5,000, let's just say it's $5,000 to take care of all of your monthly expenses. That's a $60,000 a year lifestyle that you live. If $5,000 your monthly expenses, well, if you can find passive income, whether that be cash flowing real estate, which Robert Kiyosaki is big in and he talks about, or any other forms of passive investments, if you can find a way to have those passive investments pay for your lifestyle, for your expenses, if you make $5,500 a month in passive income and your bills are $5,000, then technically you don't have to work anymore, because the income that's coming in will pay for your living. So yes, you can be financially independent, bringing in $5,000 of monthly income passive if your expenses are less than that. That's how you escape the rat race. Do you understand how to? Is that a goal of yours? Or do you want to continue to work, pay bills, and have that never ending cycle? Got to understand how the rat race works What are we actually working for? What are we actually working towards? It's important questions to ask ourselves, but then starting to educate ourselves on how to get out. Okay. Here's another one. Learn the different asset classes. What I tell you, we're building on this financial knowledge. We're building on our financial education. What are asset classes? What is an asset? Do we have to get that basic? What is an asset, right? Asset, something that puts money into your pocket. Liability, something that takes money out of your pocket. If you want to keep it very basic, that's what it is. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So they're asset classes. This is the 201 level. When you hear people, specifically wealthy people, Wall Street people, right, talk about diversifying your assets. Diversify your assets. Most people would think, well, that means, let me just, right, I got my 401k, I got my mutual fund, I got my brokerage account, I have a collection of stocks and bonds. I'm diversified. I have, some in large cap stocks. I have some in, right, international stocks. I have some in bonds. I don't know why you would have bonds right now, but I have some in bonds. That's their classification of what they call diversifying, but that's not right, right? What wealthy people are talking about when it comes to diversification of asset classes, it's about where you're moving money. There's only about four or five different asset classes that are out there, right? So we got cash, we got equities, you got real estate, you got lending money, and you have commodities, right? Commodities. So all of those areas are areas that you can invest in, and they become assets. They become things that you own, that can appreciate, that put money into your pocket. Okay? All of those things are different asset classes. And that's where, when wealthy people or, people on Wall Street talk about diversifying your assets, well, what they do is they say, okay, well, I have a lot of my money sitting in real estate right now, but the real estate market's not doing great. So I'm going to take my money out of real estate and I'm going to go invest in oil, because that's a commodity. Again, don't know why you would do that unless right, something about oil that other people don't. But right, I'm going to go invest in oil, or I'm going to go invest in this thing over here. I'm taking my money from this asset class, moving it to that asset class. Or people say, hey, my money is in businesses, in equities, in the stock market, in those types of things. And I'm going to take some money out of that and I'm going to go put it into real estate. I'm going to go buy some buildings with it. Now I have assets in two different asset classes. So now I'm diversified. The trick, or what a lot of people fall into, is they stay in one asset class. I've seen this happen for a lot of people, specifically in real estate. A lot of people that are in real estate, whether they be investors, whether they be agents, or people that are just in it, they stick to that asset class. They're like, I know real estate, I love real estate, I get my money, my earned income from real estate, then I go invest in more real estate, and I just do that over and over again. What they don't know is that they're not diversified. So if anything happens to the real estate market, which it does, because real estate's cyclical, well, you're going to be out of some money. You're going to lose some stuff because you weren't diversified enough. So you got to learn the different asset classes so you can understand how to even build wealth. Okay? You got to learn the different asset classes. We're going to keep it moving. There's good debt, there's bad debt. This is where I was going to talk about Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, has a lot of people that listen to him and follow him. And one of the things he talks about is a lot of consumer debt, but specifically he just blanket says debt a lot of times. And there's this message that, all debt is bad debt, right? That if you have any type of debt, cut up the cards, cut up the credit cards, all these things that, at one point were probably true, but I don't know that they're true today, because there is a such thing as good debt. There is a such thing as good debt. And actually, again, 201 knowledge, and actually being able to leverage debt is the way to build wealth. Being able to leverage debt absolutely will help you build wealth. Now, again, you got to learn these things. It's not for the average. This is not the 101 conversation. This is the 201 or the 301 conversation. But there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt puts money into your pocket eventually, right? It'll put money into your pocket. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket consistently. Are you collecting interest? Are you paying out interest? There is a difference. good debt versus bad debt, you have to be aware of which one you have right now. And then you have to find out where do you want to get to so you can understand how to leverage debt, how to use it, and how to not let the credit card companies take advantage of you with their 27% interest that you're okay to pay. So there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And again, that might be the 201. So if you're not there yet, let's get some education on it. And if you have credit card consumer debt, let's get out of that debt, because that's not good debt. Nor buying, right, furniture and all that other stuff that's out there, that's bad debt. Again, we're talking this stuff for Financial Literacy Month. April's Financial Literacy Month. That's why I gave the guys off tonight to say, hey, let's talk about this money stuff, because we need to hear this. We need to have these conversations on that good debt versus bad debt. That's a big one. Here's another one for you. Build your team. Build your team. Those of you that are getting into business, just know business is a team sport. Business is a team sport. You don't do business alone, right? If you want to grow in business, you have to have a bunch of people around you, not just like your team, like personal experts. That's your team. In the financial space, you need a team. You're not again, we're talking about building wealth. So there's some basic things you got to understand, but then there's some other things you got to understand about building wealth. Everyone that builds wealth, they have a financial team. That financial team can include CPAs, bookkeepers, tax attorneys, insurance professionals, financial advisors, bankers, lenders, mortgage specialists. Am I missing anything? Estate attorneys. All of these are part of your team. These are experts in the financial space that will help you get to where you want to be. Many of you, if you start a bit, like, you need to have a CPA, like you need to have someone that keeps the books, unless, of course, you're small, you want to do it, but you're not going to do it forever if you're building wealth. So this becomes a part of your team. You need both the CPA, the tax professional, and the financial professional. You need both of them. Your CPA does not do the job of your financial advisor. Your financial advisor does not do the job of your CPA. Both are needed for your team. Your insurance broker, the person that helps you with your insurance or your business's insurance, that is a person. It might not be your financial advisor. Typically, your advisor is doing investments, putting you in the market, taking you out of the market, teaching you how to grow the money in investments. But you also need an insurance professional to make sure things are protected. You might just need a financial coach. You might just need somebody to give you, or a financial planner, just to give you the blueprint and keep you on track and say, hey, just go ahead and do these things. But you're probably gonna need a business banker or somebody that works at a bank, so you have access to loans. Again, go back to good debt versus bad debt. It's good to have people in these places so that when you're ready to make that $1 million investment, when you're ready to purchase that $2 million property, you have someone at the bank, you have a lender that you've built a relationship with that's on your team that will help you go through that process. You got to build your team, though. In the financial space, you got to build your team. This might be, again, the 201, 301 conversation, but I'll tell you, it's important. That tax attorney, the tax planner, the person that's paying attention to your tax exposure down the line, making sure everything is in order so you don't have to just evade taxes, right? I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine, and I was like, listen, the IRS is not the people that you want coming after you. If there's anyone, like, it's not the IRS, and they will come after you for sure. It's not the way to just avoid paying taxes. We want to pay our fair share, but at the end of the day, yeah, you want to have some tax benefits and some tax advantages. Get a CPA, get a tax professional, get a tax attorney. It's a part of your team. So you got to build your team financially. Here's another piece of information to help you build on your financial education, build on your financial life. Talk about money often. This is one of the biggest things, and this is one of my personal missions in life, is to help us have more conversations around money. Help us talk about money a little bit more. Help us just have the conversation. When's the last time you just sat down around the dinner table and had a conversation about money? Or is that too much? Is that too taboo? Right? Wealthiest people that are they talk about money all the time. It's not a big deal. It's just a tool. Go back to what I said at the first part. Know your relationship with money. The reason why you might not want to talk about it is because maybe you don't have the greatest relationship with it. But if you have a great relationship with money, then you should have no problem talking about it. You might not get into all the details of every dollar you have and every investment and all those things, but you should have no problem talking about some of the places you have your money, or some of the ideas you have with money, or some of the next investments that are coming up, or some of the areas that you struggle. Like, it shouldn't be a horrible conversation. It shouldn't be a conversation we shy away from. This is Financial Literacy Month, hence why I'm going in and talking about this, because we should talk about money more often. You should talk about it more often. If the people around you are not talking about money, if you want to be wealthy, if you're watching this and listening to this because you want to get to the good life, and the people around you aren't talking about any of these areas, health, wealth, love, happiness, they're not talking about getting better, it might not be the circle for you. So especially with money, you got to make sure you're talking about money. Have the conversation. Nothing to be shy about. We all start at the same place. We all have, again, meaning like from an education standpoint, we're all pretty much in the same place. Yeah, you might get some different information from a peer or a parent or something, but in general, if you're, in search of the good life, continuing to move towards it, you're probably at the same place. So have the conversation. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Have it with friends, family, the people around you. It's so important. Talking about money. Couple more as we wrap up. I'm giving you the 15. I'm going through 15 points with you of how to improve your financial life, how to pay attention and really grow in this financial education space, because April's Financial Literacy Month. Why not, right? So, hey, successful investing takes specialized knowledge. Specifically, I talked about passive investments, right? A lot of times, I wrote an article a while back, I think it was at the beginning of 2020 or something like that, end of 2019, that said one of the words you want to take out of your vocabulary is passive income. We use it so often, like, oh, I'm just looking for passive income. But we've associated that word passive income with like laziness. Like, I don't want to do any work. I just want to make money, right? So when we go in that space of I'm just looking for passive income, meaning I don't want to put any extra anything into this, I just want something to pay me. Well, that's not the way it works, right? Successful investing takes specialized knowledge. The people that get to passive income, they've done their thing, the thing that they're investing in, for some time to understand how to get it so that it's passive. All those asset classes that I talked to you about earlier, learning the different asset classes. Well, if you let's take equities. Equities is one of those asset classes where it's, basically stocks, right? Stock market, but also like angel investing in businesses, or if you own a business, right? That counts in the equity side. It's ownership of a business, whether you choose to own a piece of it like a stock, or whether you actually own a stake in the business. But I'll tell you, that takes specialized knowledge. It takes specialized knowledge to pick great stocks, or to pick great businesses, or to be an angel investor or an early investor in a company. That means you have knowledge of that industry. That means you have knowledge of their product. That means you have knowledge of the future, of where you think things are going. It takes specialized knowledge. That's why you should be investing in things that you know, but that you have good, deep understanding of where things are headed. But successful investing takes specialized knowledge. If you're not taking the time to learn something special, you're probably not going to get to that place where you will be a very successful investor over time, because you will always be getting news and information secondhand, third hand, possibly too late. So successful investing takes specialized knowledge. Here's a big one. Understanding the different ways to earn income. Understanding the different income, how income is taxed, how it comes in. There's earned income, there's passive income, there's portfolio income. All of those things are different. They all work a bit differently. They all get taxed a bit differently. They all have different benefits, different pros and cons. But you have earned, passive, portfolio. Earned income, most people are trading time for money at their job, going back and forth for that earned income. Passive income, what I just talked about, is when, right, you've done the work one time, you've paid something, you've done something that now that thing continues to pay you. And then you have portfolio income, also known as like investment income. People that have, again, stocks, equities and companies. It's a portfolio. You actually don't have that until you cash it out. But again, pros and cons to that side as well. But understanding earned income versus passive income versus portfolio income. Last two. So that was number 13. Here's number 14. Earning over saving. I was about to title this Savers or Losers, but that comes from Robert Kiyosaki, right? And again, preface that statement by saying this is a 201, 301 conversation. If you don't save any money, you need to save money. Let's just say that. If you don't have the habit of saving, if you're not at 6 months worth of income or 3 months worth of expenses, or however you look at emergency funds, if you can't get there, then you need to focus on some of these habits, because that's just a financial habit, right? But the 201 conversation, for those of you listening that want to be wealthy, you want to get to that next level financially, earning over saving. You should be thinking about how to earn more money, not save more money. How do I earn more? If you make $75,000 a year, you should be asking yourself, because off of that 75, well, let's just use round numbers because it's even numbers. I'm not a math genius, even though I'm in the financial space. But let's say you bring 5,000 a month home, that's 60 grand a year. Let's say you make 60 grand a year. And of that $5,000 a month, you're able to save $500. 10%, right? You're saving $500 every single month from that 5,000. Most people will start thinking, well, how do I save 700? Well, how do I get a little bit more to save 800? Or like, I have to boost my savings. This is why in your 401k and all these deferred plans, they tell you, keep incrementally going up. How do I save more? How do I, go from 5% to 7% of my income? Just keep going. It's one side of it. That's the 101 level. The 201 is, if you went from 60,000 a year to asking yourself, how do I get to 100,000 a year? Asking yourself that question constantly will help you get to a place of building wealth. You will not save your way to financial freedom. Let me say that again. You will not save your way to financial freedom. It just doesn't happen that way. You've got to invest. You've got to allow that money to work for you. You work hard for it. Now it has to go to work for you. Savers or losers, long term, right? The rate of inflation goes up. If you're just keeping money in the mattress, rate of inflation is 3%. That's the cost. Goods go up every year. So that means that dollar that you have, if you just let it sit in the mattress, well, now it's only worth 97 cents next year, and it'll continue to go down. So that's why the more you just save, the more you will lose, because you won't even be able to keep up with the speed of money and how things grow. So you've got to eventually learn how to invest it and get your money to work for you. But the real mindset of building wealth is, how do I continue to double my income? How do I go from 60 grand a year to 120, from 120 to $250,000, from $250,000 to 5, from 5 to $1 million? How do I do that? That becomes the questions you have to start asking yourself if you want to build wealth. Again, I preface this by saying this is the 201 part. If you don't have the habit of saving, you need to get to $50,000 saved. You need to get to $40,000 saved. You need to get there. But the other side is, how do you go about making more money? It's a big point. And lastly, here's the big one, even though it's not the last thing. It really should be like the first thing, but I'll put it on here. Giving or tithing. For those of you that, are spiritual, that, I'm a Christian, I tithe. For those of you that just, you just give to charity or you give somewhere, that's perfectly fine too. But the secret to being successful financially is in your giving. The secret to being well off financially, your success will come in how much you can give. In the spiritual realm, right? Like I learned this in church, like understanding that like when your hands are closed, yeah, you might hold on to everything that you have, but God can't give you more, right? Because your hands are closed. But the more your hands are open, the more the money flows through your hands. God can bless you with more, so he knows that it's going to go through you to the people that need it. The secret, one of the secrets to building wealth and really doing this is giving and tithing. It's actually having it and saying, I'm going to use it for these, right, to give it to someone, to make someone else's life better, to move another mission forward, any of those types of things. I just gave you guys 15 different points of how to actually go in and hey, Hugh, I see you, man. I just read that message talking about explaining compound interest. I absolutely can. And matter of fact, because it's 9 o'clock and I do this for the hour, I'm going to go into Clubhouse and I'm going to explain compound interest in Clubhouse. So for all of you that are watching and that are following, jump into Clubhouse right now. We're going to finish the conversation over there because this is such an important conversation to have, right? Financial literacy, financial education. Like I said, I just gave you 15 different points on how to start to improve that financial life that you have and really start to pay attention to some of these things. But now let's dive into Clubhouse, guys. Let's go in. Let's finish up the conversation. I had some things that I was going to pique your interest with about what I'm going to talk about, but I'll just let you get in there and see. One of the things I really want to talk about in Clubhouse is how your home is not really an asset. It's more of a liability. That's going to rub people the wrong way. But again, we got to have this education. We got to talk about it. So jump over into Clubhouse, into the room. We're going to get that started up. Thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. I appreciate you. Hopefully that you learned something, took something from this. We're coming back next week, every single Thursday. We might actually change the day, but we'll let you know. But for now, every single Thursday, 8 p.m., we're joining the good life. So until next time, have a good week and keep living the good life, guys. Take care. See you in Clubhouse.